Okay, welcome back to Cubs and Culture for 1/28/2019. We're up to Driving Miss Daisy, which won in 1989, so this is a 10-year block. So, excuse me, the 80s are very consciously shit ton of Oscar bait films and also incredibly narrow material in terms of subject matter, because you have three epics which are biopics, and then you have three dramedies in Rain Man, Driving Miss Daisy, and in terms of endearment, and then even like Amadeus, even though it's not really a biopic because it's so historically inaccurate, you have that. Platoon's probably the film that stands out the most because it's being a war film. Overall, this group of films isn't exactly great in terms of it's very much what I think people think of when they think of Oscar bait is this set of films. It's so narrow. It's probably the least interesting part of the Academy history because it's so sort of stodgy and stuffy. Anyway, Driving Miss Daisy is sort of an infamous Best Picture winner, even though I really, really like it. It's one of the few Best Pictures that didn't win. It wasn't even nominated for director, though it won 4 Oscars for picture, screenplay, actress, and makeup. That makeup with Best Picture is quite rare, actually. Makeup always seems to be off to its side. Anyway, I really like it. The reason why it's so infamous is it beat out this other film called Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee, which is probably a better representation of race in America than Driving Miss Daisy, but Miss Daisy is, I think, a much more complete work. It's a funny film, so let me bring up the trailer and the clips, and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so Driving Miss Daisy is the story of an older widow adjusting to changing social mores, largely dealing with vice, but not exclusively, because her son, who is, they're Jewish, her son who is moving up the business community ladder, has a relationship that's almost as important as the relationship between her and her black chauffeur named Hoke. And the reason why I bring this up is this film is often criticized as being a for beating out Do the Right Thing at best for Best Pictures, because it's supposed to be like a it's not really supposed to be like a white savior film, but like a magic Negro film, because of they think that the general criticism is Hoke saves her by being patient and everything like that. And while she does get better over the course of the story, it's not really all that interested in saying that she's no longer racist. And the reason for that, and I'm really surprised that people don't mention this more often, is the film pretty roundly rebukes Daisy at the end of her character arc for not going further enough, because she goes to a Martin Luther King speech, and they actually play in the context of the movie that great clip, that great line about him, about Luther King criticizing the white moderates by not going further enough, and it comes across as, yeah, so sure, she befriended Hope, but she didn't do enough, which adds a great sort of complexity to the film. And the movie's a lot more knowing about the Southern caste system than people realize, and so it's mostly an odd couple dramedy between Hoke and Daisy, but her son Booley, played wonderfully by Dan Aykroyd, also forms a big part of the story, and it's a very delightful film, and it's really unfairly maligned because of being a Best Picture, and it's a lot better than the people give it credit for, because it's really a complete and well-rounded work. So this scene right here is she's a proud woman who doesn't think of herself as rich. So she can't drive because the insurance company won't do it. So he was hired and she's fighting him. And so there's this great scene. And so it's mostly an odd couple dramedy. And so the racial elements, or elements about race, you can criticize them a little bit, not being sort of the as diegetic or as realistic as in like Do the Right Thing, but the movie is much more. about the interplay of these two personalities, where the racial elements are secondary, where this story happens to comment on it, but it's mostly about a woman learning to depend on someone, a fiercely independent woman learning to depend on someone, and getting her to see things better. Not fully, but better. A lot of the strength of the movie comes from Jessica Tandy, who's absolutely masterful in this film. She gives a tour de force performance, and Miss Daisy stands apart from the rest of the film. And if nothing else, she's absolutely hysterical. She is absolutely real. And then Freeman is very, very good in this film as Hoke as well, and they have a very easy, natural chemistry. Very, very believable, and it's very, very amusing to me. And touching how they become friends over time. And I don't films like this, which are primarily comedies or about the personalities involved, are, I think, a better way, because they feel of dealing with sort of systemic systems of oppression, because it feels much more. It feels less like a message movie, and it's dealing less with the issue, and it feels much more character driven, and much more of the message coming out of the actual situations a lot more organically and much more believably than it does in, again, Do the Right Thing. It makes the work feel very, very much more complete. I really am sad that this movie was not at least nominated for director. It's sort of shocking that it wasn't. Because Beresford does a really good job. I mean, it's technically hard doing scenes like this. There's a lot of driving scenes. And he keeps the camera alive, and he keeps the interplay between his characters alive a lot. And so this scene right here is another sort of example of how the film is mostly sort of the balancing of the two relationship, because she thinks Hoke has stolen a can of salmon, and then so it's a 33-cent canned salmon. Her son, who's played very well by Dan Aykroyd. He does the southern drawl very, very well, very, very believably, and it's all very, very amusing. But it's mostly about his frustration about her caring about 33 cents. Which, it's 33 cents, and everything like that. And so it's these two relationships. There's a lot of scenes where the son is trying to navigate the relationship between Hoke and Daisy. And so that's why I think it's as important to realize that the bully stuff is as important, because it sort of makes the movie much more about aging gracefully. And there's just something very, very amusing about this situation. This very much reminds me of my grandmother, because you could move a pillow in her house 2 inches and she would yell at you because she would know. I don't know, because that's just part of the aging process or what. And it strikes me as very, very real. And then here at the end, like they're about to fire Hoke, but he's gonna say, "Hey, by the way, a can of salmon here. I got you a replacement." Offering it, and there's something very, very human about how Daisy, will not admit to that. And it's a very, very amusing, but also real and human, and very, very southern. Beresford, who was the director, he's actually British. And I'm surprised that he was so in tune. This movie feels like the most American South film I've ever seen in some ways, and it really does nail the caste system, the way in which them being Jewish makes them even isolated from the Vosps, though less isolated than the African Americans, and it all feels very, very correct. And it's a lot more knowing than people give it credit for. Now, the final scene, the show is probably the most famous in the movie. Green Book, the movie that just came out, actually consciously models another scene on it. Sorry for the ad, I didn't remove it. And everything like that. In any case, so he's gonna pull over here. Because he has to use the restroom, and she's going to object because they're already so late because she made a mistake with the map. And it's this scene right here where I feel like there's something like a lesser film wouldn't have this scene, and I can understand why people find it sort of problematic in terms of its race relations, because of this is sort of a pat thing because he's going to assert his autonomy here, but at the same time, in the context of this movie, it feels like an organic outgrowth of their relationship that he would finally feel comfortable. And so I really, one of the things I dislike about the Oscars, this also shows how the film, the Oscars aren't very leftist, because the leftists would have had to do the right thing one. But one of the things I really don't like about the Oscars is the way in which, because we compete films against each other, how that process, the Oscar campaign, actually changes how we look at it. And I really do think this film would be better remembered if it wasn't for being a Best Picture. And I think it's a very good film. I think it's actually more complete than Do the Right Thing, but there's room for both types of films like this, and especially given that the film rebukes her for being a moderate, that it doesn't strike me as all that troublesome. It's just not as incisive and not as bold as Do the Right Thing. Anyway, so that's going to be it for Coach and Culture. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Feel very, very rambling. See you guys later.